Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Into the Void, a friendly guide to digital marketing. I'm your host, Neil Cooper, as always joined by Chris Carter. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, sun's shining.
It is. The weather's been nice, actually. Not to put a date on when we get these things done because
Spoilers.
yeah,
Sun's
I'm
out.
pretty
A
sure
little bit cold.
I'm going to try and get this one out a little bit faster, but yeah, let's not talk about that. Anyway, however, today there is a change of format. If you watch the video versions of the podcast, you'll see we're seated a bit differently, and it's actually worked out for the better with lighting and stuff. That's because for this episode, we've finally made the jump to having our first guest in order to tackle a subject that every website or business that uses a website should get familiar with right away, and that's leveraging your news section for growth and engagement. And in layman's term, that's to improve your online presence by blogging and content sharing. So without further ado, we'd like to introduce our first guest on the pod, director and founder of Osborn Communications, experts in content and PR, Chris Leggett. Can we get a round of applause, please? There we go.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Chris.
I got there in the end.
And I'm delighted to be your first guest.
Yep.
It's we've known you guys a long time.
Yep.
So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll be getting into that. That's it's worked out well because, well, I suppose we'll go over it in the podcast, but we was in a position where we needed to get ourselves out there, and we ended up networking with yourself, and now it's come full circle.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to be in a position where we can have that conversation on camera, on audio. Yeah, so jumping into it right away, basically, could you give a brief overview of your background and what it is you do? And
yeah, of course.
Anything else that you want to share at that point, because we're going to be quizzing you throughout the rest of the episode.
So thanks again for the chance to talk not just to you guys but to your audience out there. As you described, Osborn Communications has been running for 5 years now. I launched the business to provide affordable expertise for businesses looking to reach new audiences, reach as many people as possible, but also do it in a targeted and strategic way. Yeah. So my background's in journalism. I started out as a trainee reporter, worked all my way up to working at the BBC News website in London before relocating to the Midlands. I was in publishing for about 23 years. The latter part of that was in marketing and comms. And so it was a natural progression to launch my own business, offering those services for businesses who, I think there was a thread through them. I don't know whether you guys would relate to this. It's businesses that just want feel almost as if they've been overlooked, or they feel like they're underdogs in their sectors, and they want to get the news and their successes out there in order to grow.
Yeah.
So we see news sections of websites being really important to that, particularly in such a fast-changing world. But myself and my team, we provide a range of SMEs and larger brands with some targeted expert support around news writing, social media management, public affairs, dealing with people like the local MPs or people in their trade organisations, and then external media. Yeah. So it all starts with news, and it all starts with stories. And I think that's where a lot of business owners, marketing leads, and people out there who want to drive success and growth can use the news section of their website to really reach a much wider audience and improve their search rankings.
Yeah, I think if we talk about a little bit about our relationship with them, we was in a position where we wanted to basically share what we've done with our clients, and we also wanted to basically just win awards. Which we went on to do, didn't we?
Yeah.
And to do that, we had to leverage your services, because obviously there's a ways and means of writing PR. There's a ways of means of advertising yourself to apply for these. It's not just awards, but just to get in the public view, the exposure. Yeah. And we was in a position where we was at a loss. We didn't know what to do. We was obviously writing about ourselves.
I would also say, we wanted to work, because we've been doing our own articles for a while. We also wanted to get some PR that was being picked up by news agencies out there, and different websites to link back to our website, so we get that backlinks. So we wanted to increase the domain authority of our website as well.
We'll get into that in a bit, but with regards to just, we've all worked with the Black Country Chamber of Commerce, for example, We in 2023.
Yeah,
So that was our first time actually applying for an award, and it was through yourselves, wasn't it?
So Chris wrote the award bid for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the lead up to that, we had a few other news stories, because if at that point you looked at our news feed, it was more or less like we was trying to hit the key points of how-tos, understanding in our sector, and
X versus Y, that kind of stuff.
And then it was when we worked with yourselves that we then started putting PR out that was regarding working with the businesses that we had and shining a light on basically that business and what the problem we were solving, right?
Case study PR, I would say, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you guys, particularly being a digital-led business with the nature of what you do, you were building a really good community. You've got your followers on social media, people who knew you and engaged with you. The big headache we all have as business owners is, how do I reach people who don't know who I am? How do I reach people who are probably looking for somebody like me or what my business offers, but they haven't heard of us yet, or they haven't realised that we can address the challenge or situation that they're struggling with.
Yeah.
And obviously with you guys, that's about how do I have a really good website that's found in search, that I have a partner that understands my needs and also can do an efficient service that I can afford, but can do it bespoke for me in anything that's specific.
Yeah.
So talking about successes you've done with other businesses, explaining where you are, who you are, there's always going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people out there who haven't heard of a business. And we've all got short attention spans. You need to keep saying it, not just once or twice, but again and again and again. And again, that's where it's easy to perhaps think of the channels. So we need to populate our LinkedIn feed, our business company page, every day at 8 a.m. But if that's not reflected on your website, you're arguably sharing better stuff on one of your channels than your own website reflects. What's going to happen when somebody 3 months down the line comes on and doesn't know that, for example, with you guys, I mean, I think we had it on within a day that you'd won that award.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a big thing, but it needs to have a home that's permanent, because social media moves on so fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the situation you came to us with was really, really stimulating one for us to work on, because you had all the material, you just didn't have the time or perhaps the expertise to understand laterally. It's not just what can we say about ourselves on our channels, it's what do people out there going to publish about us on theirs, and how do we meet, in the case of the awards, what the Chamber's looking for in order to honour a really good business. It's obvious to say in retrospect, but it all starts with that nub of, we've got a challenge here about how we reach more people. And it's easy nowadays to think, well, we'll do it on every channel that's going and not do it on your own home, if you know what I mean, your own website.
Yeah, I would say PR it's a specialist skill.
Yeah, fully agree.
Completely different to just writing a blog post. It's not just about writing a blog post. It's about writing a post and a piece of content that will likely be picked up by the people that you want it to be picked up by, and you have that experience to know what they're looking for.
The thing that,
and also submitting it to them as well, because I don't
submission
know
process. The times that we've tried to just put something together.
Back in the games days, we released our own press releases, and they're basically just
going to the effort.
And that's a difficult thing for people, particularly who've got the tools to write marketing copy. You know, if you're using AI to write stuff about your business, you've got more tools than ever. With earned coverage, so stuff that content that's going to appear on a news website, on a trade sector website, even on the organisation like the Chamber of Commerce, an industry sector. I mean, you guys work with lots of manufacturers who may be members of export organisations, whatever that is. There is a line that you need to cross, which is, how does that content become suitable for them to publish under their name? And that's the thing where big claims, bold things that you can't really back up. You know, we're the number one, we're the best. We go above and beyond. That's not really editorial copy. So the reason it's great to talk to you about it today is that our business has evolved over those 5 years, and we are seeing more companies than ever. They want to get the news section of their website sorted. They want a plan, a program of content that really hits home. They want it to be shared through their social channels, shared through their partnerships, and then if there is opportunities for earned coverage in a leading local business page of either on a website or in a newspaper, that is important to them. But if you go back 15, 20, even 25 years, most people could only communicate about themselves to big audiences through external media, and actually the process has flipped. We now start with your own channels and work out, but the thread that runs through it is what are the best stories, what are the things that are the most interest, what are the things that people are going to take the time to come and read. That bit doesn't change, but you need to have your game head on in terms of what is it I need to do that's different for this, because just writing a story that reaffirms that we think we're great is not necessarily. Everybody should be writing that all the time.
I would say that
what has some substance and what is most important to your end audience. And I think with you guys, the fact that you'd had the external endorsement, because you're a young business that's growing, the fact that in the case of the Chamber of Commerce, which has been going since the 1880s, the fact that you were now...
I didn't know that. Congrats, Chamber.
You are now an award winner from something as established as that. It's a real badge of honour. But then we also had stories that we put out around client wins you'd had, your growth, the fact that you were scaling up and taking bigger clients or working with leading brands. When you're kind of focusing on the day-to-day, sometimes you can lose sight of that. So a bit of lateral thinking and a bit of expertise to see what those opportunities are in people.
100%.
That's what we enjoy, because we can apply that.
Just to touch on that, those are the things that then influenced us with regards to what we share and what we put out and what we consider news. And it's something now that when we speak to clients, it's like, what have you got? So when we're working with clients, what news stories do they have? We need to do blog posts, yes. But what about you and your business, and what have you done? Is there been charity that's taken place in your establishment? Have you won any awards? Is there anything we can post? It's influenced us directly to ask our clients, are they doing anything for occasions coming up and stuff? So it's had a massive effect on us on how we deal with clients.
Client spotlights as well.
Our client spotlights. Like we know we should have been talking about clients anyway and what we've produced to help them solve their issues and problems with regards to the digital work that we do. We're just understanding the fashion in how to put that together, and that came from working with yourselves. And it's a nice carry on, isn't it, sort of thing? And it's nice to have that conversation with people.
We can see the value of it. So what are the businesses that you predominantly work with, or who are the decision makers that you find you have the most, you can add the most value for?
So that's a great question. I mean, I think where we find a lot of commonality is people who are tasked with marketing for an organisation. So they may be head of marketing, director of marketing and communications, or even the one person in the business who's looking after marketing at smaller companies, or business owners, people who are looking to promote themselves across different channels. Most people fall within those things, but what they do have in common is a lack of resource in-house to be able to take on a project like planning a 6-month communication strategy, just as with you guys, that probably don't have somebody who can do a really, really good job of a website that they're all going to be proud of. Time poor, they don't have, they want somebody they can trust to get on with it. And they might well be feeling a little bit overwhelmed that in this day and age, every 6 months there's another channel, there's another audience growing on another platform. And I think there's that anxiety about not wanting to miss out on an opportunity, or feeling that they want to have something covered off. And I think that's where we add value. And I know that's where we've been able to complement one another in introducing people we work with who are able to open up new conversations, because there's definitely an audience out there for people who want to improve themselves, improve a lot of their business, but sometimes it can drop down to like number 12 on the company to-do list, and it's easy to give it another 6 months, but it never goes away.
If that person is in that position and they bite off too many, try and do too many things at once, bite off too much more than you can chew, as you said. You said that to me about something different yesterday. You end up not doing any of it. So yeah, getting help to do one thing, and then you do the other thing, and then you know, you're doing 4 or 5 different things, and it's making a difference. So
it is a service. It's there where we're to complement and make the business look as good as we can see it is.
Yeah.
But it needs time. It needs inputs. It needs. Sometimes the material might not be obvious, but we can draw that out of them. Yeah. But it never stands still. I mean, only yesterday, a long-standing client who we've worked with for 5 years in facility services said to me, should we have a TikTok channel? And you think that was impossible to predict even a couple of years ago. Yeah. So I never feel like it stays the same.
Yeah, we have the very similar.
The value of, is there something really good we should be saying about your business? And sometimes it might be better to say less but do it well and say the right things than it is trying to just have a constant feed of stuff. But where TikTok and other things get involved, it is interesting. Sorry,
yeah, we always get when we're building websites for people and we say, can you send us your social links? And we all get like, oh, which ones do I need? And I've got a Twitter, I've got a Facebook, and I always go back to them. Well, are you using them? If you're not using them, don't have them.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I think that's something that we might elaborate on later as well.
Clients there as well, because if your clients aren't on TikTok, there's no point you wasting your time on TikTok.
It's a double-edged sword, because if you don't do it and your client does, and then for whatever reason they end up getting good, it's like us. We're not on TikTok, but we're starting to move into that short form content just to show what we do in a more consumable manner. And it might get to a point that we have so many that it's like, why not? But at the moment we can't. I think it's consistency. One and doneing it is not the case. So
I'd rather not have a channel than put one thing on there and not use it for 6 months. I think that was my point. But anyway.
Okay, so I think we've started to answer some parts of the main discussion with that. So we've introduced yourself and what you do, what you alleviate. We know you're good at it because you've helped us. You've helped other people that we know of. So the main discussion being the crossover between us is why manage the news section effectively, right? And in previous episodes that we've had, we've talked about the strengths of relevant content. I am stuttering, sorry. Relevant content, and touched on how it can show authority within your business's sector, like we've just touched upon, right? So this may have been answered partially, but there's other parts of the question I want to try and coax out, probably. So with regards to what you do for your clients and what you're trying to educate them on with regards to the use of their copy and PRs, in your words, could you explain why you think it's crucial for businesses to pay more attention to their news section?
So there's a whole series of answers, but I think the most important one for this conversation are, if you're going to invest the time and effort into having a website, doing it well, to then expect it to stand still. I mean, you guys are always launching new landing pages or new content sections for your clients because they have to be. But Google is always going to, or the search engines are always going to favour the principles of it. No matter how much the algorithms change or the advice changes, is the big search engines favour websites that are authoritative, updated regularly, people are engaging with and linking back to, and that are, quite frankly, where there's some visible effort on them. I think that's really stripping it back to the basics. But you are going to be quite lucky if you launch a new website on the 1st of January and your website grows incrementally by doing next to nothing.
Yes.
Just because it was so well set up with search, it's going to have to be quite a big website with lots of things on it. So the very key thing is making use of your investment and getting a return on your time. I think it's having that almost like a river of news and information that may just be once a month, twice a month, but you can see it flowing through so that the search engines pick up on the fact the website's being updated. It then feeds your social media accounts, and people, most importantly, like it and respond to it, which can be a real overlooked benefit of it. But you actually have something that people like on social media. For many people, they're just kind of rolling the dice and trying to think of something each week.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's kind of the new arrivals risk that if somebody lands on your website today, and one of the most recent pieces of news you have is we're still operating under COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, are you? If you've had a referral or recommendation, you may persist. But I think on the law of averages, that's going to sow a seed of doubt of, are these people still trading well? Is everything okay? Are the lights still on there? These are extremes, but they are things that I think we can all see in our own habits.
Yeah.
And I think it's also that thing of, as a team, feeling more confident, no matter whether you're 4, 5, 50, 150, 1,000 people, employees, your suppliers, your clients, they want to know what's going on in a positive way, so that relationship, which is the key to them working with you, either buying from you, supplying you, or working within the business, could be stakeholders outside of it. It could be people who are just want to see a business that they know and trust doing well. If you don't use your news section, the way of answering it in other ways, you have to put a lot of effort into other places. Yeah. We talked a moment ago about, video-led things. That takes time, takes editing.
Yes. Yeah.
Inviting people in, trying to do guided tours to explain how the business is changing. Why don't you just use the news section of your website and tell as many people as possible and watch that grow? Yeah. But it's not.
And also reap the benefits of the SEO that you're gonna get from it as well.
Yeah, because if you are a VOiD applications customer would expect when they buy a website from you that you'll have put the time into researching their search performance, seeing what other people in the sector are doing, and then the hard part, which is creating pages. You guys consider it par for the course, but for outsiders, how do I create a page that pulls all that together? If you can create news that mirrors that, has the right search terms in, reflects what your business is about, it's going to. This is keeping it to real basics. Yeah, it's going to complement that and grow your authority, particularly if people like it and link back.
Yeah. On an SEO point of view, if your website's got the foundational tick boxes checked, you've got good content for your services pages. Yeah. You've got your Google My Business account and stuff like that. The next step and the only step is to start adding content to your blog, alongside case studies. But you need that churn of constant new content, talking about like what we said earlier, how-tos, X and Y, good news stories. We've just done a post about, we've just done a website for X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Those things are all feed through to your news, and it helps show that your website is alive,
up to date. You're an
authority as well. Yeah. It's an authoritative place to be.
Yeah. With that being said as well, looking at the numbers with regards to our site, the high engagement areas are our portfolio, case studies, and the news section, and it goes to show that they are important. They are like your end game. Like, you have to keep maintaining these parts in order to draw people in. And just on the topic of seeing things that are out of date, we've took over a website, and not that it's to the same level or to do with it, but in the footer, the copyright was 2016, and you look at that and you immediately, if somebody is just like looking at the website and they scroll and see that, immediately they're going to think, are these guys still even in business? And then if your news is out of date as well, it's like, so there's little bits and bobs.
The last news post you put was
2021
or something. It's not a great look.
No,
a lot of people do take the dates off them as well, but
it is slightly cheating. But it's just those things that you need to look at, because then when you couple that with your social accounts or where people can find you, it's all moving. Then they can see you're updating, you're alive, and you're reaching out. So that was a great answer. Thank you.
No, I mean, and we're going to talk about some of the things. I mean, the big question for anybody watching this is, what sort of things should I be putting on there? We're going to do that in a moment. But I think that a lot of companies kind of know the sort of things they should be doing because they're doing it on their socials already.
Yes.
Yeah. But I've seen examples where they have been regularly updating LinkedIn, taking on this new person, got this new manager. And then I did a video call with a prospect who I'd met 2 years earlier, and I said, I was going through the news section to prepare to this. It's great to see that the young apprentice who I met is still in the business. And they went, oh no, he left about 18 months ago. I said, but he's like number 3 on your news stories.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, it didn't work out. That probably shouldn't be there. And it's like, it should have been superseded by something else.
Yeah.
But I felt really awkward because I'd spent about 15 minutes talking to this chap, and he'd long gone. In fact, and they said, actually, a lot of the things on there are now wrong. And you think, well, okay, you're going to have to sort that at some point.
It only takes a glimpse, doesn't it, to just scan that area, that page,
to put you off a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, just from if you're the website owner as well, and you're minding your own yard, basically. I mean, you can do all the work in the front garden, but if your back garden's overgrown, then like it's not. Or even the reverse.
Don't bring my garden up.
Okay, sorry.
Please.
But yeah, that is the point, and it only takes a glimpse. If you have access to your own site, you can hide those things. I mean, it's not the answer, but just understanding what people are going to see as soon as they come onto these landing pages or news sections.
And I think it's so hard to get people's attention nowadays.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you do go to a networking event, I mean, so many people still putting a lot of time and money into trade shows, but they don't kind of do enough to say we're going to be at this show in February.
Yeah.
Your news section of your website should reflect some of that, but then you're not kind of if the website or your wherever it is you host your news is not being updated regularly, and we'll come on to that later. It's proportionate to how much news you've got and how much you want to do it. But you can't really blame people if then they get the wrong end of the stick, or they overlook you, or they think, I'm not going to stop here for long, I'll just have a skim about it, because you're not putting on, as you've just alluded to, I always go by the rule that people are pretty superficial in that they can only judge you by what they can see. And if it's something that just confuses them, jars them, they think, I'm pretty sure that person's left, and yet they're prominent in the most recent things they're telling me about their business. You've probably just sown seeds of doubt. I don't think we should dwell too much on the negatives, because there's so many good things that businesses have to say about them we're going to come on to, that it's a massive opportunity to almost have like a fantastic place to say all the best things about your business on your own terms. It's just a time issue, it's a planning issue, and it's just doing it to a certain quality and then thinking it through as to where you're going to share it. After that, you can build it up. But if you guys have done a great website for them and they've got the right home for it, I'd almost say it's set up to go, really.
So some of the follow-up questions with regards to that discussion, like we alluded to earlier, with regards to helping your clients understand news, what do you tell them qualifies as news? Like, what should be considered, or what should be the goal when writing content for your site's news section, as opposed to social media, for example? Because everything goes on social media, and it's about taking those things and also applying it to your website. So what do you say to your clients is news? How do you let them know that what they think isn't news? Like, so-and-so got a promotion the other week, and they just candidly say it. How do you get them to understand that is news and we should be shouting about it?
That's a brilliant question, and it can open up into all sorts of avenues. I think to keep it really simple, I think you have to make it relatable to what the business is all about, what your values are, what it is that you're delivering to people, and where it fits in. Sometimes time is tight and you just need to do it. But if, for example, someone's been promoted, was that the example we talked about there? Okay, without overstepping that, but that's an achievement. So it's something to, on a real practical basis, if employee A was manager of and is now head of, or has gone from a junior level up to a supervisor, possibly a managerial level, it's a basic piece of information to say this person's job title has changed, they've progressed.
Yeah.
But if you think about it laterally from a news side, that shows you're investing in developing your staff, you're promoting from within, so they're good enough to take the next step.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there to celebrate what they've achieved so far, perhaps align it with what the company's values are in terms of recruiting from a local community, from a particular background, from a particular skill set. It could be that that person is now bringing in a totally different offering for the clients and the customers. That means that there's something new to share there. So the actual thing of you guys are much younger than me, but there used to be real basic like memos that go around that would be pinned on a company notice board that would say, "We are pleased to say that employee A is now this. They will report into this person. We wish them every success in their role." That was okay because you'd probably only be reading that physically in the building. But I think if you're going to do it externally, it needs to be put into a different context. It could be that you open up an opportunity to recruit. It could be that you're looking to take on apprentices or somebody younger to help, bring somebody in to take on the next generation. And that's just one example. But I would expect over the course of a year, an average business to have, not necessarily average in what they do, but in typical business to have some set pieces around activity they're doing in the community, whether that's Christmas jumpers through to volunteering, through to climbing, jumping off, abseiling, any of these things for a good cause. Running 10K, sorry, I didn't realise who I was doing. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Exactly. So the fact that I know exactly what you mean there, that could have been, well, I'll just put that on my own personal thing.
Which I didn't actually do. I put it in the newsletter. I didn't. I got to learn from that.
There we go. So there's stuff you're doing in the community. There's the progress of the business, client wins that don't necessarily have to be. We're going to give you the name of the business, but you can describe them in a description. Anniversary of the business.
Yeah, big one.
Visits from people who are either clients or perhaps from overseas coming in. You going somewhere else, you taking your business to a trade show, a trade, local opportunity, national, international, all of these things. If you're thinking of a content calendar or things you can plan in, I think we've gone from almost where do we start to 9 or 10 things there, and none of those are necessarily bespoke to your business or are going to apply to everybody. You may well be working with a local authority to access some grants because you want to invest, you want to grow. You want to make yourself more sustainable. We're going to put dimmers on all our stuff, or we're going to move to electric vehicles. All of these things are part of a bigger strategy. What you can't expect people to do is figure it out for themselves or notice it for themselves if you don't tell them. And that's where your website becomes an asset rather than a headache, because you have got a plan that you're working to.
So would you say that the most important part of this is, from our point of view, when we're doing SEO, we don't just jump in 2 feet first without doing the research, without doing a plan. Content planning is one of the most important parts of this for you.
It is, because otherwise you are probably going to do a last minute shoot from the hip. What's the best thing we can think of job, which, going back to some of the things we've talked about, first impressions, people come on the website and think that doesn't look finished, but they've put it up there anyway. That doesn't help. I think that if you are going to use an outside partner, they should be coming to you with almost some vehicles or opportunities that work for others that you can expect. I think that if you're going to do it in-house, you should, with a couple of short brainstorming ideas sessions, because it's very hard to say on the beginning of a given month, right, let's write 12 months of what our company news likes. Just as it's hard to almost predict any sales exactly to the last pound for the next 12 years, or what your costs are going to be. Things are going to come in, but you've got to start somewhere. And I think that's the hardest part for busy business people is, where do I start? It's overwhelming. Should I just do what everyone else is doing? Not if you're not confident of
Yeah.
it, and not if you don't think it's going to cut through to your audience.
Yeah.
So I would say, based on some of the things that we've worked together on that had the best spikes in traffic, whether that's social media likes, because there's got to be a visible result of it.
Yeah.
The things you should be looking for might be social media likes. So you guys putting your photo up in the news piece about the award wins, really well received.
Yep.
Lots of people engaging with that and then coming through to your site. The news things we do, really good photos, taking photos of you as a team, which again, not everybody wants to come into work and have their picture taken, but if you know it's coming, you've then got the photos for it.
On the table, just as proof of.
There's one in there.
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
another
yeah,
one
yeah.
in there as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's another piece of
there's
expression star in
they're
the
dotted
cupboard
about.
as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say if you to begin with, set yourself one piece a month, possibly
Okay.
2 a month.
So
Yeah.
that's the follow up question to this with regards to just we have our own answer with regards to how often should something be posted on a site, right? So we when we have this conversation with clients, we try and say
As much as humanly possible.
I mean, yeah, to an extent, but it's also at least once a month if you want your
Minimum.
website to be alive in that sense, and you actually want to start to
Yeah.
get other keywords
But,
from our point of view.
We have seen the research, anecdotal research from people that we've worked with who have gone from nothing to one a month to two
Yeah,
a month
to
to
4.
one a week,
Yeah.
and you can see that hockey stick of
Yeah.
engagement. So
with regards to yourselves, the question is like, how, in your opinion, how often should news be added, as a minimum, as a most, as naturally possible?
I think if we're starting from zero, let's start from there. I think it's like all the best habits.
Yeah.
If you say one a month, that's going to end up once every 2 months. That's going to end up once every quarter.
Yeah,
You know,
I can imagine,
human nature is what it is. So if you start with 2 a month and lock into that and plan 3 months of that,
Yeah.
I think it gets easier, not harder, because you can see the results yourself. You're putting yourself through a process. It's going to be front loaded, like arguably all the hardest but most rewarding things in life. You kind of have to figure it out and then apply it and learn from it, rather than thinking, I'm sure we'll think of something in 3 weeks' time, or we'll think of something like that. So yeah, I think that a minimum of if we're talking about a company of, let's say, 5 to 50 people, if you think about the combined efforts of all those people,
you've got
how many hours
so-
they do
yeah.
a week combined, if you're seriously saying there's nothing interesting going on, enough to document it, without being contrary about it, but I think you've got to back yourself that you're going to find,
That's a good point. Yeah.
get into some ways of seeing your business, because it's hard. We've talked about this. Getting people's attention and holding it is really difficult. But if they can see that there's evidence that you're changing, you're evolving, you're improving. If the flip side is they listen to gossip, or they listen to misunderstandings, or I've noticed that they didn't attend this or that, and they've read stuff into it, they might make up their own mind. So I think twice a month is a really good one to build off. I think if you are a business of, I'd hate to put like a revenue level to it, or to set a thing, but I think more than twice a month for most businesses, except micro businesses, startups, or sole traders.
Yeah.
I think that you've got to back yourself. You should be able to do 24 things a year, possibly 36. Some of those could be Christmas jumper days. They don't have to be. They don't have to be
essay like.
Yeah, they don't have to be 1,500 to 2,500 words.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking like
company updates and.
What do you reckon? 350 to 500 words is something that
we would say if you can get close to that 500 as a minimum for SEO, then it's a good blog post.
Yeah.
As long as it's actually content's decent and it's not just
you can't force content right in that sense, but a 350 word piece, that is, if it's a company update and you're updating on something significant in the business, then that's a lot better than just a 1,000 word. I'm just going to, no way is this happening right now. At least we caught this on camera if it does happen.
I'm going to send this to Carolyn.
Yeah. So if
This is the 245 one.
yeah, this is the fire alarm going off right now.
This is a real one.
Yeah. So we are going to go out and pause. Hopefully, we'll be back. Uncover the truth about your website's performance with actionable insights delivered straight to your inbox. Visit the link voidapplications.co.uk/free website audit, fill out the form, and get access to key information you need to make sure your website succeeds. Now, on with the episode. Enjoy. Okay, so we're back. Are we rolling? Yeah, we're all hot from the sun. You've caught a tan. It's all good.
2 minutes in the sun. Sunburn.
Right, so I think we was talking about basically how often, and I think we got to a point where we answered that with regards to what it is we should be talking about, how regular. You made a point, 24 to 36 times in a year is like what your aim is, and when you've got 365 days in a year, and that's the amount that you need to hit, it actually makes it a super easy and reachable goal when you put it in that vacuum.
Up into one a week, isn't
yeah.
it, really? Or one and a bit in a week.
Yeah, and on the back of that, you've then got 24 or 36 good quality social media posts to do there, which you can include amongst other activity, or that might be, but it all matches up. There's a consistency, there's a tone of voice there, and I think you have to back yourself that if you put the effort into it, or your partner does, or whoever's tasked with this, it's probably going to stand up better than something that was rushed or was last minute because you thought, oh yeah, we better just think of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with regards to that, something that we do on all these episodes is obviously we've been speaking about the whys, and it'd be nice to just move on, if we can, to the hows, especially if like we try and pose the question, if somebody needs help but they're not in a position where they can approach us at the moment because obviously services cost, etc., what can they do? So the question that I have written down is like, what are some effective strategies and tips? I always trip up on it. Was that word last time? Strategies. Anyway, what are some effective strategies and tips for doing this in order to create and maintain engaging or impactful content, specifically within the news section of a website?
So if we cut it back to the real basics and work it up from there, because the principles are the same, whether you're a marketing lead tasked with making maximum value, reaching the most relevant or largest audiences, or you're a business owner, sole trader, somebody who wants to be active. I think you need to put your website on your business agenda, right? That's an easy thing to think. Yeah, there's other more important things. That may be the case, but your website isn't going to go away. You need to make it something that you factor into your thinking, because it's going to get easier when you have it on your radar and it's something that you've factored in each month, each quarter. I think you need to simply have 2 or 3, 4 ideas on the go. Not everything you think of is going to be coming on it, and you need to be anticipating the mechanics of it. So, what is the story? What's new about it? How are you going to show it? What format is that going to take? You might be able to get a video clip. You might have some really nice photos. It might be some audio. Who knows? But if it's just simple words, a photo and text, I think you need to factor in when you're going to do it, what's the substance of it. But the overriding thing is, how's this going to be relevant to my end audience? And if some of it is about enhancing your reputation, it's not necessarily going to be a sales-driven thing, that's good. So that could be, we've recruited a new member of team. It could be we have passed our 5th anniversary, any of those sorts of things. Is it something that's got some sales activity, and is it something that's going to be previewing something else? So just give it some thought as to where it's going to fit in. And I would just have a regular document, could just be a Google Doc or a shared spreadsheet, where you've got the months of the year, and then what the story ideas are, and then what you're going to be working on, and what the content's going to be, so that you then push yourselves or self to have that assembled.
Yep.
In terms of what the mechanics of it are, and I defer to you guys in terms of how this appears in the CMS and how it appears to get most impact on the digital channels. But I think there's some shared understanding is it's got to have a really relevant, keyword-led, if possible, headline. So a headline on an appointment, 3 cheers for Dave, is probably a bit cryptic when it comes to search.
Yeah.
But name of the business appoints or promotes new manager or new technical manager.
Yeah.
Suddenly that's or new technical manager for exports or something like that is particular.
Mm-hmm.
We're up and running, aren't we? And you guys would have a word list of what you want to make it about.
Yeah.
A nice structured photo is always great. And then the text needs to be written with an eye on SEO, but not so that the person reading it thinks, I don't understand what this is supposed to mean. So that is probably worth another podcast another day. But in principle, something that's done in a formal or semi-conversational style that includes all the relevant info about the business and possibly quotes from the people involved, possibly case studies and some references to the people you work with. And I think you're up and running then.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpick from there, and it's easy for me to say those things because obviously it's what I've been trained to do. Yeah. But the principle of news, whether it's 10 o'clock news, a news alert on your phone, a TikTok video, a YouTube video, or a written story in a newspaper, is who, what, where, why, and when. And then you expand on those points to make it relevant to your audience.
Great answer. Yeah. There's always something to take. Like with regards to just planning, I think you didn't necessarily use the word, but the word we use is content calendar. So
yes,
that like just having to simplify it for somebody. If you want to plan, like for us as well, we have in one of our marketing sheets, we also have like a hashtag list or list of events. So like when I say list of events, I mean holidays or celebrations like Pancake Day and stuff. We use that as an example recently with a client. Like it may seem silly, but if you or your business does anything as an activity, like if you made pancakes that day, whatever, I like pancakes, but just to use that as an example.
You do use that example.
Just to use that as an example, or like the Easter holidays coming up, or something along the lines. If you have these things in a sheet, as you said, then you can either plan to do something, or if you do something and you know it's there, you can share that. Whether it's raising your business's profile because you did an event that had something to do with those things, or on your socials if you want, like if it's a smaller task in that regard and you just did something with your family or something, you want to share it that way. Content calendar allows you to scan what's coming up and plan for those things, especially the larger events, because there's always something that a business like say for example Red Nose Day being on there and you want to get into charity work. How can you do that? You have time to plan. That is something that can raise the profile of the business if you plan for it, and if you're getting all your employees involved as well. And that can start from a content calendar if you have no idea what you're doing. And hashtag.
Also, another example, if you're going to a trade show in September, don't leave until the end of August to start telling people. That kind of stuff. Planning for your events and stuff. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, a content calendar can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. What we're seeing amongst our clients and amongst businesses we engage with is people tasked with marketing or promoting a business have never perhaps been more or felt more overworked than they are now. Not necessarily in the volume of work, but just because they are expected to be across so much.
Yes.
So your content calendar should, if structured properly and you revisit it every couple of weeks, should take a little bit of that pressure off, because you can anticipate stuff coming. That's in the calendar well in advance, but also you can look at what's out there. So particularly as people are being asked to work or have an eye on so many things, what could be better than to have one resource that tells you the months or the key weeks, key dates, and you work back from there. And I strongly feel that maybe people are focusing too much on the channels or the outputs and not the source of it. And that content calendar can be a simple structured document that simply says January, return to work or outlook for the next year. Really easy one to overlook. We've had a positive or we've had a challenging previous year, but we are looking ahead for this. You can do that on your own terms, but if you don't say what the outlook is for your business, you're asking a lot for people to assume that they're going to find out about it. It could be that there's stuff to do with stuff that's in the calendar for January, February. It depends if your business is tied to some of the seasonal things, or if some of your activity as a staff or as a business is done to it. So one of the things that we know is that for many of our clients, the lead-in might be 2 or 3 years for some of the products they do. That doesn't mean that you can't be talking about stuff that's coming up in the future. Say this March, we're looking ahead to summer of the following year. Or if you're a business that's tied heavily to Christmas, might be hospitality, announcing you can now book Christmas parties, Christmas events. Yeah. All of those things are there. It's just trying to improvise them or see them without a simple place to do it. So that content calendar could simply be month of the year, 2 or 3 ideas, where we're going to put the news, and it could be that some of that's not appropriate for LinkedIn. It's perhaps more for your Facebook, or it's more visual. I'd add a couple to that. Anniversary of when the business was formed. I mean, it must be great if you were to dig out a photo from 2012 of where you started and where you are on your anniversary month. I don't know which, is that June or August? So you could say, we're marking this. Great content on socials. People love to see progress. They like people-led stuff. It's a really easy one for a small business to overlook because you're always looking forward or you're looking around. Where we started, we're in our, doesn't have to be a round number, doesn't have to be 5 or 10, but 12th, 13th, and this is where we're going. Suddenly your content calendar's filling up. And that's the bit that you need to, and I think if you share out the responsibility and talk to people around the business, you'll get input, you get some good ideas. It doesn't necessarily sit with that overworked or overstressed marketing lead who could be the business owner. Sometimes other people will be able to bring that stuff to it. And if some stuff doesn't work out, it drops off the calendar or you put it ahead for next year, then you're there. But I think trying to just think of stuff off the cuff when it arises, it's particularly if you're starting from zero, that time's probably not going to happen. Just because you've got other focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think with regards to that, if you're able to stay on top of those things and you've got your content calendar, you're creating content, your news is updating, you're looking out for more things to add, you understand that news isn't just... News doesn't necessarily need to be just like news as in informative. It can be about your business, it can be about you, it can be about the surroundings, it can be where you're helping and what you're trying to do community wise, and you got that grasp. So that section's up and running. You're adding content, you've started off consistent. Is there any point, have you seen any pitfalls to this? Is there any downside? Have you ever, is there an opposite of this at all? Have you ever, I don't know, is there something to be wary of if you're hyper focused on the news? Is there anything you can overlook?
There's a whole host of things. It's a great question, Neil, because it can become a part of the website that is possibly even undermining what you're trying to do. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of studies in digital marketing around echo chambers and around content that is actually irritating your target audience. So it says news, but it's actually just a load of marketing messages. We have continued to show how great we are and how we're the number one at being brilliant. I mean, okay, you'd hope that most people would say they're good at what they do, otherwise the business isn't going anywhere. But you need to make sure that it isn't just marketing copy that has that tone of
it's not clickbait.
Yeah, quite.
Okay.
Quite.
Nice.
Quite.
Yeah.
It needs to be something that is as a basis in reality. Now, that doesn't mean that you run yourself down or you scare yourself that we don't have that sort of material. We don't have that stuff. But people, if you think of what news has been since before people could write or shared printed information has been about people, places, things that have occurred. That's not necessarily dramas and crises, but let's be real, that's possibly a topic that's worth doing in about what to put on if you do have one. But if we assume it's about good news, it is about that stuff that we're always trained at journalism college. How would you tell someone if you were in the pub what's happened?
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily, I saw a house on fire. It could be a business that we both know has appointed somebody into a new role. It could be that they've just got their first client overseas, or they've now doubled their workforce in 10 years is probably realistic. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a very short, extraordinary amount of time, but what's a landmark for people?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it can be the news section. You don't necessarily want it to be the boss has brought their dog in and everyone had a really nice day. Yeah. That's good on socials. Yeah. And it could be that the boss brought in a really nice pile of pancakes. You know, it depends what your your own.
He didn't bring any pancakes.
There's a lot of pancake talk around here. I'm not seeing any pancakes yet.
The stigma's being dropped immediatly.
But that's really nice, warm stuff that some people can respond to on LinkedIn. But your general, especially somebody who's new to you, they're not going to get the in-jokes of it. Yep. So that echo chamber thing is perhaps something not to scare yourself about. We can talk yourself out of doing it. But you do need to remember it's not a social club thing. Yeah. It is your professional arm. And I think if you kind of push yourself for what are the momentous things, or the things that we would find of interest in other businesses, you should probably back yourself. You can have something good to say rather than it just being a quota filling. Yeah. Here's another reason why we're great. Yeah. Which you might want to do in a different way in an insights section, or more of a blog and a thought piece. Yeah. Nothing wrong with showing your expertise, your relevance, how you address the challenges that your target audience need, but perhaps do that more as a thought piece or a demonstration of your knowledge.
From adding to that, it's the same thing when we're talking about creating blog posts to talk about website speed, or we talk about SEO. Was it important and stuff? We don't talk in those blogs about, we're amazing at making websites and they're always quick and they convert and you find yourself top of the Google. We don't do that. We don't say that, do we?
No.
We always go approach it from the point of view of you need to know about this. Yeah. And I think it's the same. Yeah. It's the same point. Yeah.
Because you can always put in call to, like with regards to those topics, for example. That's why we put call to actions in. But the call to actions are more than likely separate to the text, and it's literally a call to action. If you would like to do this, it's there. We're not forcing that within the text, especially if you're trying to be an authority and you're trying to inform people, because that's the difference between, for us, informational and commercial keywords, and that creates the difference. So that's a good point as well. And with that being said, the how do I phrase it, there's something there with regards to splitting that content. This is for social, this is for the news. There is also a cross-pollination, but understanding that helps you out in the long run with regards to what you share and how you share it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it could be that on your content calendar you segment things for certain audiences. So a lot of the manufacturing businesses we work with, some of their staff might not be on LinkedIn, but they'll be on Facebook. Yeah. So we talked earlier about the anxiety businesses have to have a presence on every social media channel. Yeah. But if they're not doing it well, they're not doing it regularly. But Facebook is an easy one to overlook as LinkedIn being the only place to promote your business. But there could be a tranche of your staff who don't use LinkedIn, but who use Facebook, in which case there could be some content on there that sits really nicely, that might be more social, might be more fun, might be more stuff that people think, good on them, isn't necessarily trying to do a message. And that might be where you pull that away from the news section of your website and you apply it there. There is a risk that we kind of add to the stress of people think, I've then got to feed that. Yeah. But I think that might actually get a better response or a click-through rate to your website.
I always find the better content on LinkedIn is and this might be going on a tangent, but is the stuff that feels organic and genuine about what that person has been doing or what that person has been, what's happening in the business, and you know what I mean.
It's a nice
Whereas the spammy stuff of I was just sitting here thinking about this really profound thing, and that,
read more. Hit the button to read more,
and it's like
and
that long.
Just, a
lot of the content that I find engaging comes from stuff they've put on the website.
Yeah,
that's personal. For me.
Yeah. I think that's, everybody wants to get clicks, and you have to. Yeah, recently, not to have a rank, but with LinkedIn in regards to seeing certain people say certain things in a certain manner, I've just started like not losing them as a connection, but unfollowing. Just because 100%. It doesn't come across as natural, and I don't know.
It's spammy, it's clickbaity, but in a very strange, weird way. It needs to feel like your content that you're creating for your website and your social media is coming from you. Like, would you talk like that in this setting?
Yeah.
If you don't, then why are you putting it on your socials and your website?
And I think that's where we, not to go into it on this episode, but that's where like the use of AI comes into play, where people are plugging in what they want to say into there, and it's giving you something, and they're not. In that instance, you could just write the status yourself, especially if it's going on your social account. But then they're not proofing it. They're not thinking about it from like an emotional perspective and stuff. And then you end up with these long statuses.
I think we're going off on a tangent.
We are, yeah. But,
no. I think if you follow that down the line, if everybody, so I think it's really important not to expect everybody to communicate in a very formal news at 10, like broadsheet kind of way. But that said, if we all message each other effectively through LinkedIn using AI, because we say, can you write me a blog that makes me look authoritative about this thing? And then we get AI to create a photo of it, and it just goes on and on and on. There is going to come a point where, exactly as you described there, we all, even if we don't conscious of it, we're thinking, this doesn't ring true.
Yeah.
And I think I'd extend the thread throughout all of the conversation we've had through all of this is the content we see people on behalf of our clients that people respond to better is still people, places, faces, and if you put a link through to your website so they're encouraged to then read the full story, as things stand, and I would say that those sort of posts will perform as well, if not better, than some of the AI content that you might have spent ages on. You haven't just said, write me 500 words on it. Yeah. But it just doesn't quite, it's not quite rooted in the things that on a human level we still look for in the people we want to work with or people we want to follow. Is it a face of someone I know? And you guys know this. When we see with our clients they're named as an award finalist, they put a piece on social media, photo of them and their team, and people say, that's brilliant, well done. I would argue that those sorts of things where there's something new of some substance to share will do better than something that says, we're having a great. It's just very. We're having a great quarter, and that's made me think about the big issues facing the world. And the more you read it, you think, I don't know this person really well, but I've never heard them talk like this. And they seem incredibly well. They've really thought this through in some quite equally written bursts.
That's
whereas I know that when I see them outside of this, they've generally got 2 or 3 things that they talk at quite length. But they seem to be doing it in like bullet points. And I didn't know they were from America, but they use a lot of Zs in their content.
Absolutely.
All of those things will get ironed out as AI improves. And AI is an amazing tool, whatever it is, as a general thing. For if you're trying to write content and you're time poor and you know what to put in the prompts, and there's some very good people in our networks who can help you with that, it is an efficiency, a time saver, and it hits some marks there that might take you, even as someone who's trained to write for a living, it perhaps would take me some time to get to those points. but it doesn't take care of everything. And I think if you were to say, we're going to create a news section, do the bare minimum, and let AI just generate stuff for us, just as the same as you wouldn't ask AI to generate all your, well, you wouldn't ask it to do your payroll, for example, or your other stuff without really going through it in some detail. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I'm loath to say it won't get better and
tomorrow.
better. Yeah.
The way it's going, but yeah.
But I think we can all the frustrations. I think if we were to all write on a piece of paper each 3 things that annoy us or we've seen, I think that we're all probably seeing the same things. But there's that anxiety that got to have something on there tomorrow because I haven't put anything on there for a week. Yep. I'll quickly go and chat GPT or Gemini, and that'll be good.
GPT is great, but I think I do want to do an episode on prompt engineering. I think because that's the key to this. Yeah. And when to use it and when not to use it and stuff. Yeah. But that's for a different day.
I think that's the bit where people can add real value is to understand what they need to put in for the prompts. But marketing, communications, they're written-based things. If it's a case of that'll do, then if you've got other stuff to do, I'm not going to judge you for that. But is it going to grow incrementally? I think that we're not a million miles off Google and other search engines being ahead of the person generating this stuff, have been able to clock it. I mean, some of the readers on it now are really, really strong as to what they do. And if everybody's using
pattern
AI,
recognition, I think.
Yeah. That will only get worse the more it's used. And if everything that, bar some very small posts that you did, were written with AI, I think that is gaming the search engines who want to know that it's useful content. They want to know that it's rooted in something. And if it's not resonating with people and there's no backlinks, there's no engagement, it's only a short-term fix if you're not sure what you're doing it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, I think we're coming to the end now, and that's been a really insightful conversation. And hopefully anybody that's been listening has been able to take away something. Even us, I feel like I've refreshed on our news section. It's definitely reinforced what we learnt previously and what we need to do going forward, especially talking about the marketing calendar stuff. It's like you say, I've been overrun. We've all been overrun in the business. We've all got a lot going on, sort of thing. And just being able to look at it, even on a quarterly, to know what's coming up, it gives a clarity that you can't. You won't get if you don't just check up. You know what I mean? So even that for me is like, okay, you've been slacking in that regard. Like get back on it, sort of thing. So it's.
And I think the message for people is not, you have to have one, you have to keep feeding it. You need to have a good one. If you're going to have a news section on your website, make it a good one. How do you make it a good one? You anticipate what your audience is going to like, and that is trial and error, because you should be able to track in your own social media analytics and your web analytics. If you've posted 4 things over, say, 2 months, and there's not been one spike of interest, it might be a chance to come at it a different way. But it's better, you've got to start somewhere. And if that means getting a third party to come and help you get up and running, and we coach a few people and train people either through workshops or through projects for clients. You've got to start somewhere, and I think that you need to apply the same rigour as you would to anything else to do with your business, that you make it as good as possible. But there's some simple things that you can follow there and almost follow the own rule of thumb of what do you value in other people's websites. What website news do you like about the people that you either buy from or you want to aspire to be?
Or your competition.
Your competition, Let's be blunt about it. They may be performing better because they're putting the time into it. And that might just be an hour a week. It might be half a day every 2 weeks. But they are doing something. They may be using a third party. But there's no substitute for making a start with it. But also having the confidence that we can do a good job of this. We've got some really interesting things to share, and we've got to back ourselves that we've got the material. It's just a process like anything else to want to get the best out of it.
Cool.
But
brilliant.
No, thank you. His first guest. That's a milestone.
Thanks,
and really insightful conversation, as I said. So before we wrap up, if people want to learn more about what you do at Osborn I'm going to start that again. Tongue twisters. If people want to learn more about what you do at Osborn Communications or want to get in touch, where's the best place to find you?
So the URL is www.osbornpr.com. You can find me, Chris Leggett, on LinkedIn, and there's also quite a popular, we post a lot on LinkedIn, that's our preferred channel, and you can find us on there, Osborn Communications, so yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we'll drop those links in the episode description. So if you're listening, that'll be in the summary. If you're on YouTube, that'll be in the read more section as well. So please check those out. As we've said, we can vouch for Osborn Communications. We've worked with them over the past few years. We've managed to help me out.
I think, Chris, wrap it up. You've written us 6 or 7 award entries, and we've been finalists for 6 of them.
Yeah, there you go. that's a
we won 2 and got highly commended for 2.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me on there. We value working with you guys. It's been great to follow your journey and to be able to celebrate that. And I think almost that little snapshot of what you give there is, we haven't made you winners. The material was there. What you wanted to do was get some external help to communicate that, which was a
He also gave us the confidence to actually put an application in, because we probably wouldn't have written an application ourselves. We'd have gone, I don't know what to write here. Ended up not doing it. So.
We recognise that it's a service, it's a time issue, but what we love is to meet a business like you guys, or so many of the businesses we work with, who quite frankly don't know how good they are or where they fit in, or what's great about them, or unusual about them, or different about them, because they're wrapped up in the day-to-day. And that's the great thing about the news section, is you can make it look like the best of your business, but you need to put yourself through the process.
Yeah, brilliant.
Great.
Thank you, Chris.
We'll leave it there. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's an honour to be your first guest. And,
thank you.
We're sorry about the fire alarm. It's going to be associated with us for a while.
They won't know in the edit.
They will, because I'm going to milk in that. But other than that, if you're on YouTube, then please think about liking the video and subscribing to keep up to date with the rest of the podcast episodes that are coming. And also, we're on, I think, the majority of popular podcast platforms, so please subscribe and follow there and listen to the audio version if you prefer. So yeah, I've been Neil Cooper, this is Chris Carter. Thank you, Chris Leggett. Everybody say bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.